Welcome to another edition of African Americans Ain't Africans, the thought think tank that proves without a shadow of a doubt that the so called African American didn't find his way to America in the trunk of a ship. I'm your host, the Indigenous One, and tonight we're going to have a round table and talk about some of the things that have been plaguing the community in this holiday season. Joining me tonight are Nisi Lachelle, Shy Ray, and Charlene Brown, and Joy Spirit. And we're going to put out some information that's going to be very helpful and very informative to the collective. So everybody's going to get into it. Your questions are very much needed because we all don't think alike. And there's probably some things on your mind that you want to get out, and maybe some of the listening audience can answer some of the questions that we have. So, ladies, welcome.
Thank you.
Mhm. Charlene Brown. I want to go with Charlene Brown. I want to go with Nisi Lachelle, Shy Ray, Joy Spirit, and me. And we're gonna keep that circle going. So go ahead and let out your thoughts, and the other people on the round table can add some thoughts to what you said, and we'll go to the people who's listening and see what they say about it. So Charlene Brown, it's on you.
What do we? What do you want to discuss? You want to get it popping?
Pop it.
Well, my thing is, I'm starting to see that, and I know that the West Indians are our people, and I'm starting to see, which I've been seeing for a while now, where these brothers been speaking for our grandmothers. And I want to just know how, I mean, what gives them the right to speak for us? The African slave trade story was never given to the Negro grandchildren. And I don't know why these brothers are having debates and everything and word about us instead of word about their own people. Why are they over here trying to teach us who we are, and they're not at home teaching their own people who they are?
Mhm.
You want to know why?
Yes.
So this is just my 2 cents in. Everybody else can put their 2 cents in too. But this is what's up. We are meant to be confused. So since that whole Marcus Garvey thing has been going on, that's all we talk is confusion. And as indigenous people here in what I call it Central North America, because we have to remember we can't keep breaking this up like they've done the land. I call it Central North America because to me Canada would be North America. And so what we do is all we do we only say what other people tell us. We never come up with things for ourselves. It's like Shire was saying earlier about this tribalism. Tribes, but people don't call themselves tribes. What did the people call themselves? And every time these people say something, the people in the Caribbean have been just as mind fucked as we have. They don't really know anything. So if they can't come over here and tell you anything, and what we don't do, we don't ask them. We don't ask people from the Caribbean, well, where's your mother from? We're cool with them coming over here telling us everything. We don't have nothing to say. The Negro in America has nothing to say about nothing ever, unless of course they're getting their emotions. So I think the way to curtail that is when they come and ask them. When they come and try to tell you who your people are, you simply ask them, well, who is your mother? Where's your mother from? You will get crickets.
You know something, I have something to say about that. Joy Spirit here. I know. I'm just thinking that they don't have the same problems we have with titles because remember, they're still called West Indians. Are we? No. They still have their title, no matter how much stuff they try to tell us. They're still being called West Indians. We're the ones that are disfranchised from our titles as American Indians.
Mm-hmm.
So just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to say that.
That's
the
true.
difference between us and them. Is they're still categorized as Indians.
But also, if they come from the different islands, or they have that island's nationality. So when they come here, they Haitian American. They can never be American Aborigines. They can't be that true to the word, true to the title. They can't be that. They can't be an American Indian. And but I've noticed that that's growing population of, they call it a aboriginal movement, but in reality all it is an awakening. These people, the main ones, these are people from the islands. They're from the islands, and it's not any hate on them because they family, but this is our little area that we have to stand up and claim. We have to let people know who we are and what is ours by birthright. That it's already been established for them on their little islands.
Okay,
Oh,
go ahead. I
no,
was
no,
gonna.
I'm done. Go ahead.
I just something just came to my head. It's just how did we get to the point where the fear is so strong that you just completely and irrevocably literally denounce who you are, and it seemed like that took root in the 60s,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
we never regained it, because before that people did have some sense. They still would say, well, I'm Negro, I'm color, whatever, but then they also said that they were Indian. And now you just got folks that's all over the place, and you got people that are too willing to accept a lot of fuckery when it comes to claiming other what? What are you? Other what?
Well, I see that's what I mean. So if you look at the world, this is the Americas. The Caribbean is part of the Americans. Matter of fact, some of our people may have come from the Caribbean back in the day, but we let other people tell us whatever it is. That's not just us here. That's down in the Caribbean. That's in South America. That's in Central America. It's all one landmass. You have islands off the Florida coast, the Florida Keys. We never talk about that. So the information that we get is always second, third, fourth hand information, and we trying to communicate with each other with information that other people give us, and we're going to be confused. I mean, what's happening to? I mean, you can figure it out on your own if it's happened to you. If the things that's happening to the whole collective, if it happens to you on an individual level, you'll see that something is amiss.
I
And so
agree.
and so that's what I say. The people in the Caribbean, they're just as American as you are. And being that we're cut off, that's how they have done us. We're cutting the states into Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, blah, 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 blah. We're cut up into so many different pieces that the thought of unity always eludes us.
But
Yeah,
but
but
wait a
my
minute.
thing is, okay, when your grandmother came over here, or your oldest, your grandmother, your mother, or you came over here from the islands, hey, I was already here. My grandmother was already here. My great grandmothers were already here. So, I mean, for you to come over here and see my people already here, you got the nerve to try to teach the gullible, the ill-informed, who they people are, and they get named. I mean, here it is, and we could talk about genetics a little bit later, because I really want the sisters to chime in with me on genetics as well.
I think the
I
only way
think
to
we're
figure
the same people. We
Go
just in
ahead, love.
different locations over here and they over there. We used to travel more freely than we do now. There weren't any borders. I mean, if you look at the Carolina, what's across from the Carolinas in the water? There's another island right there. The Gullah are on an island. All of these islands are surrounding the mainland. So we didn't have borders the way we do now. We moved freely. Now, since
About the Bahamas.
we have one part controlled by the French, one part controlled by the Spanish, one part controlled by the Portuguese. And all of these people are telling us all the same lies. We're not as divided as we think we are, but we're not from Africa.
Okay.
We're all from here, just different parts of of America and the Caribbean. I think we're the same people.
I,
But
I,
you got different nationalities of people, all the same, being taught by different schools of thought from Europeans.
uh-huh. Yes, we are the same people, okay? But here's the lowdown. I can't go to Jamaica and lay claim to it. You understand what I'm saying? I can't go to Barbados and lay claim to it and say I'm heir to that particular part of the land. That is the issues that we are faced with because we have our cousins and them coming over here and they claiming American Indian.
Well, they can claim that because we don't never say nothing.
But what I'm saying, we saying something now. And the thing here is that if we people keep throwing up unity, okay, we can't ever have unity, not even with our cousins and them, until we get ourselves straight right here. You understand? Until we stand up and proclaim who we are as a people and what is ours by birthright. But if we don't ever do that, we cannot be unified, not even with our cousins and them. And guess what? Our cousins and them can come over here and take advantage of our disconnection. And that's what everybody do. That was
Well,
a Go
okay,
ahead.
but you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But that's not on them. That's on us. So
Exactly.
and just let me give you an example real quick. So when you say these people come up, okay, let's use this as an example. Let's use Marcus Garvey as an example. Marcus Garvey, see that bullshit didn't work down in Jamaica. He couldn't tell them they were from Africa because they knew what was up. But he came up here, what, in the 20s? And he still got these Negroes twisted today on that stupid shit he was talking. That's what I mean. And New York is the birthplace where all this information comes out. So where do most immigrants go when they come to America? New York. And so it's up to us and all that, because one of the things that I realize about our people, we so sensitive when we hear the truth. We don't want to hear the truth about nothing. But when these cat and like the young lady said earlier, you can't go down in Jamaica and claim anything on Jamaica because those people know you're not from there. You can't go down to Anguilla and claim that. But they can come here and say anything. And us, we'll believe anything. So
Mhm.
I totally agree with you on that. We just have to start standing up and what Charlene said. No, nobody can come tell you who why. That's how dumb we look. We let anybody come tell us who we are, and we believe them more than we'll believe our own grandmothers.
Mhm. And that's the Achilles heel. That's the Achilles heel of our people, and that's how as a collective of people, we can never move anywhere. We always will be the floor mat because until we get the backbone and the fortitude to stand up and be ourselves and claim what is ours, we will always be down there on the ground for everybody to stand on.
You're absolutely right. I agree.
Relatives. So, this is not about, see, first thing people say, this is about us hating. It's not about us hating. It's about us telling our people, hey, this is your responsibility to stand up for this land. It's your responsibility to claim it. This is what we're saying. And when our cousins and them come over here and they start wearing our identity, how are they different from the $5 folks?
No, when they start telling us that our grandmothers are liars.
Well,
I
yeah.
mean, how dare you tell me my grandmother is a liar? You won't say that shit in my face that my grandmother lied. You won't tell my other brothers
Mm-hmm.
that my grandmother lied.
Mm-hmm.
How dare you?
See, so
That's why we have to stop. This is why when information is given out, we got to be up on it. I mean, imagine me coming to your house telling me what you got in your refrigerator. That's basically what they're saying. But when they say those things, we never say anything. We normally agree with anybody. A person can come from the moon and tell a Negro in Los Angeles, "You from Venus," and the Negro in Los Angeles would be like, "Yeah, you right." I mean, that's what I've seen.
That's what I've seen too.
I mean, that's what I see. So it's not you know what do we do to that? That's on us. And another thing that's very important, you have a lot of these brothers. See, a lot of these brothers talk this ignorant stuff, and then, I'm not saying none of the sisters on the panel, but they get more love than anybody.
Oh boy.
mm,
Oh boy.
So here you had these cats saying all this dumb shit, and nobody. I mean, I've heard people who are so-called indigenous to here will go on one of those talk shows and talk to these guys and prove these guys right.
Oh boy.
And as far as Shy Race saying that tribal thing, I thought animals came in tribes.
Tribe is a governmental construct. Our people were not tribes. Our people not only dealt with our own selves. I mean, we were families. We
mm,
were we
Nations.
were great grandmamas. A great grandmother has children, and their children have children. Their children have children. They they move a little piece away from each other. They are still family. They're not tribes. They still got the same bloodline.
right, right.
You might call them Choctaw or Chickasaw, whatever the case is, and Seminole and all that, but they're the same people.
Hmm. But see, the reason tribalness or tribalism is not good for us is because when our folks are a part of tribes, they are they only think of the tribe as a we and us, and they leave the rest of the collective out there. And then they'll say what they need to do is go find the tribes that they descend from and become a part of those tribes. And that's not the answer because everybody can't find their way back to some tribe. And then you think about how many of those tribes are governmental tribes now.
Yep.
Think about it. So they're not improving their situation by going from being a quote unquote African American and then become their tribal affiliations. They can't do that and rise. And other people understand the concept of a collective. Like I use for an example the Chinese. A lot of people didn't know that the Mandarin and what's the other one? It's Cantonese. I think they're Cantonese. They didn't get along in China. But when they came over here, they became a collective. They became Chinese. Those differences that they had over in China, it didn't matter over here. So they knew that there's power in being a collective. But when Negroes start talking about be a part of your tribe, be a part of this tribe, knowing that the masses of our people have since lost connection to those tribes, and then knowing also that those tribes are governmental tribes these days, how does it lift our collective? It
It
does.
doesn't.
That's
It
right.
it doesn't. And you know what? When we think of this is Nisi. when we think of things like that, it always bodes negatively. First of all, there is strength in numbers. Okay, we also know that even back generations back, these people had to blend together. There might have been some Choctaws, there may have been some Creeks and some whatever, and then they became one band. The key word is band. They banded together, and they had to do that. Okay, when we think today in this present time, when we think of tribes with a lot of these young people, you're thinking about some damn games. That's what comes to my mind, because look at the madness that we have gone through with the games that people embrace. Just sheer madness. People killing each other based on the colors that they wear. So that doesn't even make any sense. It's nothing that bodes us well, and our people banded together regardless of whatever so-called band that they originally came from, because they knew it was strength and safety in numbers, and that makes sense.
Let me just make 2 points. Let me just make a point, and then I want to get some of the questions that are coming in the comment sections, because I want the people who are listening to ask questions and to become a part of this, because it's not just us talking. You're a part of this too. Okay, so going back to the tribe idea. So you heard the story last week, and this is just simple to figure out. You heard the story last week about some Christian missionary going over to an island off the coast of India and getting stung by all those arrows.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they think of themselves as a tribe, or do they think of themselves of something that they came up with? They look at themselves from their point of view.
From their point of view.
Do you think they call themselves whatever they call them? I don't know. I don't know the name that they call them, but do those people call themselves that,
No.
or do they call themselves the name that they came up with?
Mm-hmm.
See, that's the shit we gotta learn. We keep coming up. We keep referring to ourselves by names and titles that other people have given us, and if we refer to ourselves as those names and those titles that other people are giving us, we become what those people want us to be. It's just that simple. And for some reason, and I'm talking about, these are people who are 50, 60, 70 years old. They can't even see this. And I'm tired of all we keep saying, oh, I didn't know. Nobody told me. You on this planet all this time, and you seeing what's happening to us, and you haven't took 5 minutes to try to figure this shit out. That's on us. And also that we keep blaming other people. We never take any responsibility, which means the problem will never, ever be solved.
What, Kerry, that's why we could play African. That's why we could play Muslim. That's why we could play Moor. That's why we could play Hebrew Israelite. We could play all these other groups of religious groups and whatnot, so that we don't have to have any responsibility to the youth. We don't have to build shit. We don't have to teach them how to feed themselves, how to grow their own food, how to clothe themselves, how to sew. We don't have to do nothing when we try to fit into other people's ideologies. You know, I mean, this is ridiculous. And you know what? And I tell the people who I meet and I talk to, when they say I don't know, I say, yo, you know damn well your grandmama told you. You know, somebody told you, your great aunt, your granddaddy, somebody told you. Oh yeah, yeah. It's very few people that I talk to face to face who elders did not tell them who they were.
Mm-hmm.
And like I want to explain something that I found out, is that if your family was so badly affected by colonism and all of that other stuff, and you can't find directly who your people were, it's not that it does not mean that your people were slaves. You know, it could be that your people bucked, and your people were not did not want to be on their census. It also means that your people could have been independent up until recent time, and it could also mean that your people were badly affected, and they had the trades. They were tobacco growers, traders, fur traders, rice traders. You know, they could have been traders. You know, traders, not the traitors, but the trader. They could have been traders, and that's why they were enslaved as well. Because I'm gonna tell you, cotton. Everybody who got a naval cord has worn some goddamn cotton.
Mm-hmm.
So figure that
But
cotton. They cannot. I mean, we cannot even be paid enough money for the theft of our cotton and our cotton industry before foreigners even came here.
so you're absolutely right. So so that's what I see. Um, we're we're letting other people come over here and take our identity and make it what they want it to be, and it's just throwing confusion in the pot. That's what I'm saying.
Right, and I could see other women want to talk about sisters and down sisters, but you're dressing like sisters.
Right.
You're wearing your hair like sisters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, isn't that flattery like a motherfucker? Here you are, you want to talk about the sisters here and the condition sisters are in, but yet and still you're dressing like us,
Trying to talk like them.
trying to talk like us, right? Blend in like us.
I mean, even the stereotype of us, the people try to uh, wear it. So yeah, yeah. So how you gonna bash a group of people? But that's what people. That's what the world do. The
Yes.
world watches us over here, and that's something that Negroes really do need to take heed to. If you such a low life, if you so low down, why would the world watch you? You know, my brother and I have a little joke amongst us, and that is that Negroes could wear dirty underwear on their heads this week, and the world would point at them and laugh at them and call them all kinds of names. But come next week, they'll be walking around with dirty underwear on their heads too. That's just how much the world imitate us. We are the most imitated and emulated people on this planet. So people always down us, and I believe that they down us because they recognize our greatness. But unfortunately, our own people can't recognize it.
Yeah.
Tomahawk Tony,
Yeah, what's happening? How you doing?
what's going on, brother? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, yeah. Did I hear Charlene Brown and Ray on the line with us?
Yes,
Yeah,
you did.
Hey, how y'all doing?
We're
just fine.
good.
That's what's up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I ain't spoke to Charlene Brown in forever. And Ray, I think this is my first time ever speaking to you. And, I appreciate your service throughout these years in 8-4,
Hmm, thank you.
Absolutely. Yo, y'all having a great discussion. I definitely would like to add what I can, contribute what I can. Um, I mean, what you just said about these tribes, this tribe situation, you know, people really need to take time to consider reality, the reality in which they know to be true, not the third party foreign social engineered quote unquote reality, the fantasy, if you will. So many people do not have touch with their own relatives to even begin to even comprehend what a tribe is. There's corruption throughout the current quote unquote tribes in so many ways, whether they state recognized, federal recognized, or unrecognized. And at the end of the day, the root of it needs to be gotten to. What causes this confusion, this corruption? What? People with hidden agendas? People that's being selfish and considerate?
Yep.
People that want to be deceptive? People that want to manipulate others? They want to go for the bag? I mean, it's 2018 approaching 2019, right? And are we dealing with the same things our people was dealing with in 1819?
No.
In 1818?
No. At least our people could feed themselves, clothe themselves, and build.
I forgot about that part. Right?
Yeah.
There's a little more. There was a lot of more self-sufficient back then, right? Like they wasn't as dependent as they are today, right?
Yes.
Right.
But even then, though, were our people experiencing, various forms of corruption and selfishness,
Oh yes.
which has pretty much multiplied 200 years later.
Yeah.
Okay. And those of us that have awareness, I mean, in my opinion, these are things in which we have to maintain mindfulness of because it affects us all. In so many ways, it affects us. I mean, the healthcare situation. I mean, you would think once upon a time ago, right, knowing if you know that your elders once upon a time ago provided, medicine, you could go to your grandmother, you could go to an uncle, you could go to one of your peoples, right? Whether they was one of your, like, immediately right there, or you had to go to a neighboring area, village or what have you, right? To get what you need so that you could be okay. As for being dependent on foreigners and foreign services, and the foreigners, they could care less if you're here.
That's when you became African. That's when,
yep.
That's when the Indians became African, when they had to depend on the system.
Yep.
They could label you anything they want to label you as, and if you needed their services and whatnot, you had to take whatever label they gave you.
That's outrageous.
Yep.
And that ties into discrimination if you identify yourself properly, correctly, if you will, and they refuse service based on who you are, that is discrimination. And our people, for so many of our people to be as ignorant as they are today, especially in regards to addressing the corruption, they're just giving a pass to it. This is so offensive to me. At this point, at this stage of the game, we should know way more collectively than we do. We should be exercising ourselves in ways in which, is showing our offspring, our posterity, like this is the standard of conduct, not allowing foreigners to mistreat us. This is not the work that our ancestors put in. This is not what they worked for. I don't believe our ancestors put in work for us to be dependents, to be renamed and reclassified and this, that, and the other. And for the fact that so many of us are just sitting around allowing this to happen while they're Black Friday shopping and being good consumers, I mean, this is just outrageous.
Speaking of Black Friday, I want to bring up a point that hit this week that kind of hits on what you're talking about. Last week in Birmingham, Alabama, check this shit out. Now, Black Friday to me is a horrible time. You see how the people act when they go into stores. They were selling 50-inch TVs down here for $79. And you just got a 50-inch TV this time last year. So they're in a mall, and of course the regular jigaboo shit is going on. And you got a gun. Everybody can carry guns down here. And a shooting was going on, and the police came in and shot a brother in the face. Didn't give him no medical attention, and of course he subsequently died. And to me, I'm starting to think this is this happens all the time. But everybody was pissed off because here was a brother. He was young. He was an officer in the army, which means he went to college. He was in the army. He did everything right. He was carrying a gun, you know, and they shot him in the face, and they won't release the tape. And Negroes are crying, and well, why won't they release the tapes? Because they have to cover up what they did. See, and this is what I mean. We have to be more aware, and we got to be on top of our game, because these type of things can happen all the time, and the same things happen over and over again, and all we do is bitch and complain about why these things happen. These things happen to us because we're trying to fit into a paradigm that that doesn't want us in there ever. And we keep thinking, oh, I can be this, I can be in this, I can be one of them, and you can't. So this is a major thing that's going. I mean, and I realize that they're energy vampires, and they suck the energy out of us every chance they get. But we're always on the back end. We're always something is happening to us where we have to react. And I think that is just, and I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot as we keep going on and keep believing these things that they do to us.
Yo, I agree. I would like to ask, you know, I always um appreciate the opinions of our American mothers and daughters, right? So, pardon me. I'm up here in the mountains and it's kind of cold. I got a little cold and all of that, so please pardon me. I just coughed real quick. But I appreciate the perspective of our American mothers and daughters. And when you all hear these incidents occur, right, where you have a young man seemingly potentially American, right, of our people, whether he's aware or not, who has been, let's say, unlawfully killed, murdered, essentially, right? And then the people, they just what? Make noise. Um, they don't know how to effectively demand proper results and actions against the offenders and things of that nature. How do you like what's your opinion and perception? What's your perspective? I'm just curious when these incidents occur. Because we have all of these people that are on some good Christian turn the other cheek. We need to leave it in the Lord's hands kind of people talking and just making noise until the next time it happens.
And there will be a next time. It will be a next time. Because until our people proclaim who the hell they are and declare their birthright, this will continue because our people continue being seen as a dead people, meaning anything could be done to us by anybody and they not be punished. So until we do those two little things, proclaim who we are as a collective and declare what is ours by birthright, which is this land and these resources, these people can do what they will to us as a group of people, as a collective of people. That's not made up, that's fact. We could look around and see this stuff keep happening over and over and over, and you see people walk away from it.
I mean, I think you got to notice that when these things happen, uh, so what happened in Alabama? The first thing they get up there and talk about it. The second thing they do, they put a Negro up in front, telling everybody, "Oh, we're going to investigate. We're going to blah blah blah," and that muddles the situation. But I'm saying this has been going on so long, we should be past that now. And this is what the Charlene Brown was saying. We keep teaching our children this. When you say you have a grandbaby or whatever, don't say that, because all you're doing is setting them up for the slaughter. That's exactly what's going on, because this will keep. We don't say nothing. We join them. It's like a brother was saying earlier. How come we don't make this much noise when one of us kill each other, and we slaughter each other every day with impunity? So this is why other people think they can treat you like you do, because they're watching. You go have a brother go shoot up a Mexican house. What do you think will happen? You go have a brother shoot up an Asian house. What do you think will happen? Not only what do you think will happen, when that does happen, what do you think the rest of the community will do? So these are things we have to be mindful of, guys. We got to be mindful of. Is anyone there?
I'm
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, Paul, I put myself on mute while you were speaking. Um, you know, in my opinion, we got a lot of people that have been demoralized. Um, the stress levels are overwhelming. We got so many people that have been treated so so insensitively by their own loved ones, relatives, friends, neighbors, etc. Um, for so long, I see that our people have just been hanging on by whatever thread of life in which they believe they can hold on to, whatever it may be. Um, all of that's temporary. A lot of people don't have a future. The future is what's being projected to them by foreigners. That's why I say kill your TV, kill foreign media, kill propaganda, kill confusion, etc. You know, when I speak to my elders and I hear, different stories from their experiences, and they say, these horrible things in which they had to deal with. And then fast forward today, they're like, yo, like, yeah, everything is bad. It's worse. They're saying, I mean, we got 80-year-olds saying that it's worse than what they went through, and it was bad then when they was kids, when they was like teenagers and all of that and younger. It was bad then, but for them to say it's worse now, I mean, that's something that needs to be paid attention to. But it's difficult to pay attention to it when you're constantly being bombarded with all kinds of filth and corruption and a whole bunch of people that just have no. We got so many people that just don't know what to do. They don't even know how to begin to even consider what to do. Going shopping, being a good consumer is easier. Just paying your bills on time is easier than taking action. The action in which you feel in your bones, you need to take. You feel it in your bones, you feel it in your spirit. Your spirit's telling you what to do. But that's not easy to listen to your spirit, huh? Especially when you're by yourself and everybody else's spirit around you has been demoralized.
Well, we're gonna have to dig deep. We're gonna have to do something. We're gonna have to dig deep. And one of the things how to get over this hump is to raise more conscientious children. Go to the service, go to school, do this, do that, be a good Christian, and all the other shit hasn't gotten us anywhere.
Yo, I agree. I mean,
So
let me tell you. Let me just share this with you that happened. Pardon me. I don't mean to interject. But let me just share this with you that happened like 24 hours ago, right? So there's a woman who's approximately in her mid 40s, okay? American woman. I'm not gonna go in a lot of detail about her experience, but pretty much her heart could stop any minute. It could have stopped any minute, like the day I was talking to her, and over a month ago, just could have stopped and she could have dropped dead. Anyway, she has a medical malpractice situation. I told her what I needed her to get me. Told her I need her to give her friend, who I know, power of attorney. I will put together the document. We'll come through with a mobile notary, etc. And then we could go ahead and get those medical records. We can go ahead and get some things done. I told her I need her to put together an affidavit. I need her to put together her statement. The notary is going to notarize these 2 different documents in order for us to get busy. That was Thursday night. I was expecting to get this done Friday. She calls Friday morning. She says she spoke to some attorney. Now she's waiting till next week. We don't have that kind of time. Meanwhile, on Friday night, she's playing. Half dead and playing. I mean, this is the reality of too many of our people. We got too many. It's Friday night. How many people outside playing right now instead of what? Making preparations for their future, the future of their posterity. Like I'm a man with no offsprings. I don't have no daughters or sons. But if I did have daughters and sons, I definitely, everything that I do should be contributing to their daughters and sons. What I do today contributes to that. Going to a club ain't going to do that. Going to the ball game ain't going to church damn sure ain't going to do that. But so many of our people, what? They've been demoralized to where is what? They just got to be focused on, give their attention and energy to something. And this is why I value the A4 platform. Because we have people throughout the A4 platform, you know, the work that Mr. Davis has done, Charlene Brown, Chare, you know, everybody, all of y'all. Y'all have laid some tremendous groundwork for certain individuals amongst our people to be able to appreciate and for their morale to be increased. Because I don't know what it's like for everybody when you go outside. You see a lot of shit. A lot of things is taken away from your life, taken away from your energy. You can find yourself participating in it in some shape, form, or fashion. But to have a strong structure, a continuous like source of your people who's really about our people consistently, that's not going to compromise, not going to waver, that's not going to support the corruption that's typical, that's only out for the money, for the bag and all of that. I mean, you know, this is what makes this special. This is what makes each and every one of us special. And most definitely, I agree with you. Yo, we need more of our special people. We have to strengthen each other. This requires special abilities.
yeah, I agree.
I'll be long-winded, but I'm just speaking. Thank you. Appreciate you.
I agree with you, Tomahawk. And I know Carrie and Shirey might not necessarily agree with me because they bring me back to my duty when I'm a little far out there, when I say the people who are not building their lifeline, and people who are not making preparations for the future, um, I don't know what to say. I mean, they do not have a right to 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 jump on somebody else's lifeline and feel entitlement for somebody else to save them. You know, just like I tell some of my friends and my family members, I'm building my shit. I'm doing what I need to do slowly but surely. And I'm not gonna let their dead ass weight hold me back. I'm sorry for the other people who are preparing and doing the best that they can and whatnot to enjoy a little bit of their life that they have. I'm all for them. I could work with them, but for the people fucking around, just like I was just like what 200 sisters are 230 something times more likely to die during childbirth or after childbirth. And we had these sisters around here. Oh, I could go and see Black Panther, going to get their hair done, nails done, damn outfits and shoes and shit. And nobody, the sisters collectively not trying to put money together to build clinics in their communities for their daughters and granddaughters that have a safe clinic where they could deliver their babies. And then when some shit happened, then you want everybody to stop what they're doing to come and address your selfish ass. You keep going. I mean, god damn, these Chinese men slapping us and manhandling us and shit. And then we still fucking with them. I mean, come on, man. Shit, it'd be 3 cars deep of damn brothers and cousins and everybody on my behalf. Because they know that I'm gonna, if I call them in, it's gonna be on principle. I'm gonna be in the right position. I'm not gonna get my people fucked up because I'm in the wrong position.
Mhm.
I'm gonna be in the right position. I mean, I mean, we keep doing the same dumb shit.
Mhm. Mhm.
I mean,
And,
god damn.
and what's amazing is keep doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. Isn't that the definition of insanity?
Yes, it is.
So,
Yes, it is.
so I mean, it's just time. It's time for us as a collective have to grow up, and I think that you have many people who are choosing, as it was stated earlier, to not move to their rightful place, not do what they know needs to be done. So they just step back and think about the moment, live in the moment. And there's a price to be paid for that. There's a price our people pay all the time when they choose not to know their history. They choose to ignore what was done to them by whom and why and how it's done. That's important because we cannot keep doing the same thing. These other people think we're crazy. As a group of people, they think we're crazy. Our folks are paying to be beat up. They're paying all the. You remember a few months was last year, I guess, when the Asian man punched the lady in the mouth, the sister in the mouth.
Shit.
But that's earlier this year or something. And all he had to do to redeem himself is put a 50% off sign in his window. And the Negroines and the knee highs forgave him because they wanted that 50% off on beauty supplies and hair and wigs and whatnot.
Can I add to that real quick?
Mm-hmm.
And then they fought each other. They didn't. They no longer. The guy who assaulted one of them in their community, from their community of their people, they completely forgot about him and they started beating each other up
Mm,
for the discount.
mm.
So to me, those are the things that are, to me, that's the mind control. That's the monarch. That's the monarch mind control, because to have a beauty supply business in your community means that you're ugly. Why do you need somebody coming from a foreign land selling you beauty supplies? This is where our thinking has to be. Anybody can come sell us anything. and we'll buy it. So you know the food that they're making now, half the food that they're producing now is fake food. You see that the other side of the world, and when I say the other side of the world, I mean Africa, Asia, and Europe, they're coming over here to dictate to you what you should be doing. And you have Negroes. You can call it Congressional Black Caucus. You can call it these ministers in these churches, these teachers in these schools are teaching the children what these people bring over. And they're doing it for money. So I would just suggest that, and I always tell everybody, pay attention to those stones, those Georgia Guidestones, where they're telling, let's get rid of these niggas. This is what the Georgia Guidestone's saying. Now, a lot of us don't go look at it because we don't want to believe it. We'll believe anything else but the reality that's going on. You just seen the young man got shot in the face. You see what's happening in these schools every day. The purpose is to get rid of you. You see in California, what's happening, all the fires going. All they're doing is clearing the land. And the only thing we can think about is good old St. Nick, Black Friday. That's what we're thinking about. That's all we think about. So I'm just saying, to stave off this genocide that it looked like coming down the pike, and it looks like they'll get many of us to help. What I call all these cats, like Charlene was saying earlier, these cats coming over from these other nations down in the Caribbean and stuff, all they are to me are modern Buffalo Soldiers. And for those of you who don't know, the Buffalo Soldiers were the soldiers that went and killed up the people that were living in the Midwest and other people down south. As these people moved west, they got some of us to get their guns. So we got to understand, how do we start getting these guns? How come we don't make everybody makes their own weapons that's coming over here? Chinese make their own weapons. Russians make their own weapons. Germans make their own weapons. What do we do?
Terry, excuse me, I'm gonna break in, but I'm gonna ask you, what was the purpose of the Buffalo Soldiers again?
The purpose of the Buffalo Soldiers, I mean, you got to know who did the Buffalo Soldiers get their weapons from? Who did the Buffalo Soldiers get their uniforms from? Who did the Buffalo Soldiers get their instructions from? And we love them. We love what was those guys? Tuskegee Airmen. We love them. What did they do? Your people over here being lynched, and you're going over to other countries to fight people who are lynching your people here. Are you crazy? We applaud that. We think that's great. So this is the mental capacity that the so-called African American is now. Their whole mental capacity is to kill themselves out.
Right, but can I interject? The Buffalo Soldier, their one of their purposes, and you're absolutely correct, Carrie. I mean, they were just, to me, fucking monkeys. Uh, uh, but to me, uh, but one of their purposes was to make room for the colonists coming in, for the settlers, for the immigrants.
Yes, and they did that by killing the people off the land. They were used for that. So you're absolutely right. You remember the New York Times article that we had, right?
Yeah.
That's all they were. And they would tell, and most people, and most of us, because we try our best not to know anything.
Mm-hmm.
If we got a New York Times articles where they were talking about the army to go down to Kansas. Now, when you think of Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, that used to be a jungle.
Mm-hmm.
They called the people who lived in that area bushwhackers.
Mm-hmm.
What do bushwhackers look like? They are not these Native American people that we always get confused with. Because if those people that they called Native Americans, if they were the people of the land, they would be the majority of people in the land. There is nowhere in the world you can go and you have been told you have been told that the Wasitus make up 10% of the world population. They come over. If they told you it would, if they told us it was one African American walking around, we would say, yes, boss, it's only one of us walking around. That's how they have us psychologically. So this is what's going on, and I hope you guys pay attention to this. The Denver airport, check that out. These people put down what they're doing. They're choking us out, and I mean, we're all gonna die anyway. We're all gonna die anyway one day. And I think if we're gonna keep our bloodlines flowing to the land that birthed us, that birthed our mothers, that birthed our grandmothers, our great grandmothers, we better start thinking on another level.
Yo, and this is why I value, you know, getting into the history of our people, our individual people, and the relationships they had with our neighboring peoples. You know, what they call genealogy. I mean, the same way we can maintain relations with each other in different states right now as we are. You know, we got people down in Texas, we got people in Alabama, we got people in Georgia, we got people in New York and Illinois, in the Carolinas and Florida, etc. We got people all over the place, same way our ancestors did it. And we all contributed to each other. We had each other on our minds. We supported each other no matter where we were. We had trade lines and trade routes, etc. We made sure we was healthy. I presented a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, over a month ago. Is it racism or truly speciesism? They call out people Americans. All the foreign species, invasive species, right? They come here to become American. Meanwhile, each of those foreign species, they work together in their own, within their own species, phylum, genus. They work with their own and build up their own. Meanwhile, each and every single last one of them, what they say, death by 1,000 cuts, each of them is slicing out people, one slice at a time, generation after generation, many slices. To the point whereas we got some of our own people thinking they Buddhists. Some of our people want to be Hindus. They want to study yoga and all of that, right? They want to deal with Islam. They want to believe in all these different foreign species, belief systems, but they don't even want to know their own. So in regards to what you said, Mr. Davis, to me, the higher level of thinking is thinking about ourselves before we think about anyone else, because the foreigners demonstrate how they think about themselves every day, all day. Who set up that branch of law enforcement that shot that young man in his face? Who set that up? Did we set up that law enforcement branch? Or did this foreign species set that up to support and uphold their interests, secure their investments?
Well, we need to take some responsibility in that shit too.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, for the world of me, I don't understand how it is that somebody could come on your fucking land with a shotgun and beat your ass when it was said that what was DeSoto, or I think it was DeSoto, was met by raining arrows. I mean, I just cannot. I mean, I'm sorry, I just cannot figure that out. I just cannot make that make sense to me. Sorry, I just cannot get that to make sense for me. Sorry. I mean, it's and the blaming of others and whatnot, where we could sit our asses back, don't do nothing, but still look what they're doing. When you sit your ass and join their conference, that the conference you're getting from them, and join this bullshit you buying, you know. I'm I mean, what do we do?
I what I think should be done is we just treat the people how they treat you. See, these people come over here, they don't support your businesses. And if you ever talk to the African American, see, the African American is the made up species. They didn't create themselves. Somebody else created them. So that's why you can never get the truth out of them. That's why they're dumb. They don't never come up with nothing that'll benefit them. They always benefit other people. That's how you know that they're a made up entity. So simple. I mean, the solution is right there in our face. Asian women don't buy wigs from black women.
And
They
that's an
don't.
incredibly simple point.
It's simple. Nobody buys anything from you.
Yo, they
Nobody.
studied from us. My
I'm
apologies.
sorry.
I just want to say that real quick. They studied our people to the point where they no longer need us. They have nothing to benefit. There's nothing more to learn from us other than that, you know, they can manipulate us. That's it. The consumer data reports year after year. Just look at the consumer data reports for the past 10 years, and you will see consistently how the foreigners, just within the past 10 years alone, they only need us for one thing: to kill ourselves.
Yes.
Invest and not invest in ourselves. Simple as that.
Okay. Now, on those terms that you're talking about, that's why the boule, these Afrocentrics, and they're not needed anymore. Our people have been indoctrinated and taught this shit already in school, so they're not needed anymore. And they, like like the status of Dr. Bean and all of that other stuff. We're fucked up. So all we have now are scrubs, the leftovers, who's still trying to pimp us. You know, they're not needed anymore. They could get rid of these niggas in these colleges and schools and the niggas that's running around trying to teach us this bullshit. You know, Afrocentrism is a hustle. It is a hustle. These guys have carved out an economy for themselves, teaching African ancestry.
Mm-hmm.
That's their economy.
But see, if you notice of late, all of them have been trying to co-sign that their maternal grandmothers are some American Indian. They'll name the tribe, and then they'll say, "But we African." That they say that for the people who follow them, so that they stay of the African mindset, because they know that talking about who their maternal grandmothers are, as it pertains to being an American Indian, it goes over the heads of people who are still mesmerized by Africa. So they're basically put on the record who they are. They're proclaiming who they are to this land,
Mm-hmm.
while misleading their own people. See, so they are becoming obsolete, and the powers that be, they no longer useful, because our people are waking up. They're waking up, and hey, is it when as they wake up, that's less people to support that nonsense.
Right.
All we want for our people, the very simple thing is to Ask questions. Go ask questions of the people who know you better than anybody else. That's your elders. It's their job to make sure you know who you are. Then you can do your family tree so that you can see with your own two eyes that all of what you was told with the Kunta Kinte story, that didn't apply to you. That didn't apply to anybody. It was made up. And it's so these Afrocentrics, these people still trying to make their money off of misleading Negroes. Their real concern with what's going on is that we're cutting into their money. When we tell people to talk to their elders and do their family tree, we're basically cutting into their money. Because once people do those two little things, they realize that they've been had. And they no longer is going to give their time and their money to these people. So, hey, things are changing. It things are not going fast enough as far as I'm concerned, but hell, everything in this right for time. So, I'm glad to see that Pan Africanism is dying out. It needs to, because it's been number poison, and you have the other groups of our people, those other ideologies that are standing by, and they trying to co-sign and hang on to those ideologies. They're indigenous, but yet they Hebrew Israelite, or they indigenous Moors. The only suckers who say they're Moors are the American Negroes. The rest of the world don't call themselves that. Actually, they find it fascinating that Americans will be co-signing that. They find it fascinating. So, hey, all of that stuff is playing out because it have no fruit to it. They say you can tell a lot by a tree by its fruit. And the fruit that's coming out for those trees, it haven't helped our people. When you tell folks, okay, when did Hebrew Israelite come on the scene? Well, when did Pan Africanism come on the scene? And more science. All of that came on the scene around the same time period.
Yes. Yes.
So if they all came on the scene at the same time, then we have all of this history, all this time that has passed to look back and see what have they done for our people. And they've done nothing. Nothing. Oh.
Yeah. You're correct. Shire, you're correct. I've posted many times the a newspaper clipping where they put an ad in the paper uh um uh trying to solicit American Negroes to join their Muslim, to join the Muslims who were here. I think it was in 1933 or somewhere around that time. And I'm looking I'm looking at the brothers and who are Muslims and whatnot. And these they are they come from American grandmothers.
Mhm.
I mean, come on. And I said this before. Your grandmama named Cora Lee. I mean, come on, man. I mean, this is just so crazy. I mean, grown people. We're talking about people who have grandkids. I mean, everybody came here to get our people to join them. All these religious groups. And you got our people over there right now, uh, 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 going over there to damn Egypt. What's that? Israel. Oh God.
Mhm. Talking about that's their homeland.
Oh my goodness.
But y'all, think about it now. Uh, all of this stuff is ramping up because, like they said, they have 2019 as what the return, the return. for 2019 to Africa, all this kind of mess. Do you think that's a coincidence? Mm-mm. Uh-uh. Because these people playing for keeps with this land, and they want our people to write themselves off. Remember, you're your own worst enemy. When you know not yourself, you're your own worst enemy. And you're gonna co-sign stuff that's gonna take you off of what is yours. And that's what they count on. So you have people who have downplayed the census. They said that, the census is just them um taking account of the people and so forth. Hey, the mere fact that on this census they are demanding that even pale folks tell what their land of origin is. Hello, they haven't been doing that in the past. So this is not the same old census that people want to make it out to be. So that's why it's important that our folks they have a year to get their minds straight. Because when they do that census, they are proclaiming who they are.
Yeah.
And if you say you Hebrew Israelite and Israel is your homeland, oh, you writing yourself a one-way ticket to somewhere. That's what you're doing. So, like I said, the party time is over.
Um, in the group, right before when was it? I think last Tuesday, I wrote in a group. You're gonna be amongst your family. You're gonna be amongst your grandmas, your aunts, your great uncles. You're gonna be amongst your family. Ask them what did their grandmothers
Hmm.
tell them who their grandmothers were.
Hmm.
And I constantly say this. And Shiree, you say this as well. Ask your elders what did their grandmothers say.
Hmm.
Not all of this, not the church, not TV, not radio, not what anybody else said. What did those people say out of their own mouths who their grandmothers were?
That's right. And remember this. Let's say your people came from some little village in Ghana. They brought here as according to the narrative as a slave. Well, that story would have been passed down from whatever parent that came off that ship. It's gonna be passed down through that family. That's what the elders do. That's what they do. It's not about them being ashamed of being African because it's about you knowing who you are. And no matter where you go on this planet, that's a practice everybody have and it is respected. What your elders say, that's highly regarded, except here with American Negroes where they call each other's grandmothers liars and feel like they can tell you your history better than you and they don't know you from Jack.
Oh, and the DNA. Oh my goodness! If I see another brother post about DNA, and they believe it. And I mean, damn. I mean, sisters been in labor 12 damn hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, still giving don't understand that you get your history from your grandmamas. Not no damn men in the streets.
Hmm.
I mean, don't understand how the bloodline passes, the heritage. The heritage comes from the mothers, the grandmothers. So I mean, boy, we gotta wake up.
It's coming to a head. And I know someone told me one time, they said that I was fear mongering when I was telling people about the 2020 census and that they need to be real clear about who the hell they are. It's not fear mongering. Look, the writing been on the wall for a long time. It's been on the wall. Yeah, they have changed our people's classification so many times. So this right here. they're gonna let you set it straight or keep the lie going.
Yep.
This is what they're doing. And so when people say it's just strictly commerce, they missing the whole damn point. It is not strictly commerce. It have never been strictly commerce. And this census that's coming up is it's magnifying the shortcomings within a lot of our people. Okay, they're gonna trade off their inheritance to remain ignorant. And the first time that they fall out of the graces with in this country, they can just ship them off. Just ship them off because you said that you was African American, which made you an immigrant, an undocumented immigrant, meaning that you didn't go through any process to be included in this system.
Say that again,
Okay,
please.
everybody who come over here to be an immigrant, do they not go through a process?
Yes.
Where if the narrative is correct that they brought Africans over here as slaves, did they make them go through a process to be a citizen? No.
Nope.
So you here undocumented, as you understand, you're not that much different than the migrants. You
And
was brought here.
and to piggyback on what you said was really important. And many of you guys can, that are listening, can get on a computer and look now. You can go to these sites like Wikipedia and all these other sites, and they're calling people, they call Phyllis Wheatley an African American.
Mm-hmm.
They got documents circulating on a computer now where they got terms for African Americans that was written in the 1700s when the term wasn't even used.
That's correct.
These are the lengths they're going to get you off your land.
Mm-hmm.
These are things we have to pay attention to. Because, like I'm saying, you have all these brothers teaching that Egyptian stuff. So when people say that we're Egyptians, one question you have to ask all these cats that say we're these foreigners: where's your mother from? And they can't lie. They can't lie. All you have to do is ask, well, who's your mother? Where's your grandmother from? And they're gonna say, and they all say it. Runoko Rashidi say it. All these Afrocentrics say it. Well, who was your grandmother? Oh, she was an Indian woman from down. Nigga, then how are you an African?
Mm-hmm. But
Explain that.
you notice they make a point to proclaim who their maternal grandmothers are. You see?
Right, right,
Now the average follower of theirs don't understand that. They don't understand that what these people did was made sure that they went on record proclaiming who their grandmamas were.
right.
See, they making themselves safe, and they telling all those Negroes following them, "You African." See, this is straight up about money.
Right.
People keep giving those folks props, but they're there to deceive you. There was somebody posted something in the group. I think it was Michael Hampton that posted something about Runoko Rashidi. It was a clip where somebody asked him about the so-called Aboriginal movement, and he called the people lunatics.
Right.
Lunatics.
But he cannot birth one child, can he?
I don't think so.
Now he's gonna call 60 million people lunatics, right?
If they embracing this land,
We're okay, and we need to really get into genetics. I don't know if we have time here, or we could do it another time, but we need to really get into genetics because with all of this DNA talk and all this other shit, I want to know where at they found when they did this DNA where we get our soul from.
because we most certainly different than everybody else.
Don't play.
See,
You know, that's what I want. That's what I want to know. Where do we get this soul from? We got babies 2 years old could dance their ass off, popping.
And listen, the mere fact that the world watches everything that we do. I mean, the so-called lowly people over in the United States, the world watches us, imitates us. So do they do that to lowly people or do they do that to great people?
Yeah, you got a point there. I know. Did y'all see the video where? I mean, there's plenty of videos where those elders are in their 70s, 80s, and 90s still dancing,
Mhm.
still dancing.
So yeah, so that's why I say instead of always answering questions, sometimes we have to ask ourselves some questions. So when these people say what they say, you just ask them about their families. Don't just ask them, and they will tell you. Ask them who their mothers were. Say,
Mhm.
where was your mother born? And when they tell you that, well, oh, she's from what? I don't know, Trinidad and Tobago. So if I went down to Trinidad and Tobago and told your people they were from Africa, what would your people say? They would tell me to get the fuck out of their face. We don't do that up here. We just love them, and you right. That's how all those Hebrew Israelites came up through here. That's how Marcus Garvey came up in here. Because
Mhm.
anybody can tell us anything. And one of the things, this is what I know about the Negro. If you tell them something that makes sense, they're mad at you.
It
Do you
makes
notice that?
sense.
Oh yeah.
So that's what I don't get. And not that that bothers me because it doesn't, but it's like, damn, y'all, y'all take this stupid shit a little bit too far.
Well, I think a lot of it
You
is
believe somebody over your grandmama.
right.
That good ass blood you got going through your veins. That
That's
good ass blood. And you believe somebody over her?
but get this. The reason that they believe other people over her, it goes back to that self-hate. People love to say folks like us, folks that claim our real home, which is America, they say we're self-haters. We're ashamed of our Africanness. But here's the thing: that's a self-hater who won't even listen to his grandmother, who know better than him or her. That person self-hate.
Yeah, I got into a debate a couple weeks ago, and me and this guy we went at it, and he hasn't answered my question yet. Um, uh, when it came to genetics and everything, and Africa has how many countries? 54 countries,
Hmm.
and damn, y'all can't find a prince. God damn, all of Africa, y'all can't find Prince,
Ray Charles,
James Brown,
Patty, Patty
Michael
LaBelle.
Jackson,
Oh, child, yeah.
Aretha Franklin,
Mm-hmm.
Mike Tyson.
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Mm-hmm. See, they try to convince us that we well, or everything that we was doing, we was drawing from our Africanness. But when you listen to they, yeah. So when you listen to their music, when you see how they dance, you see how they put together their storytelling, all of that kind of stuff. It's very different. It's this is different. It's like day and night. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Africans of those various countries. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there's a difference between them and us. Even if they people say, well, you can find some Africans that look like y'all. So they can look like us, have some features like us, but that don't make them us and us them.
All indigenous people have some of the same characteristics, the same phenotypes.
So that kind of make that argument moot.
You just hate your African self.
Yeah, that's what they say. That's what they say.
Yeah.
And then, and let me just tell you, back in the 80s, when I was in college, I had some African males in a couple of my college classes that, we used to dialogue with each other. And during that time, in '88, that's when Jesse was running for president, and he called himself African American. And I'm telling you, those Africans flew off. One was Ethiopian, and the other was Nigerian. They flew off the handle because they say you're not African, and I'm like, I ain't say that. I didn't call myself. I didn't call myself that. But I understand. I understand. I understand it today because what they're saying is they knew who we were. They knew. But then I also heard Africans refer after that point in time refer to the American Negro as dumb and stupid because the American Negro didn't know he was at home. He didn't know he was at home, and he started calling himself something that he wasn't. So they started calling our people dumb and stupid. You see? So
Okay, but
Yeah, but you
no,
want
no,
over
not,
here.
not
But
trying to be not trying to be funny, but if you got Jesse Jackson as a leader, I mean, what else? What what else do you? What
I,
else are you?
I, look, well, hey, people see now, Negroes love a rhyming Negro, and he used to rhyme, didn't he?
Yeah,
Oh, get up there rhyming and everything. They love a charismatic man.
yeah, but so let's take this cat Jesse Jackson for a minute. He's been a slime ball for a long time, and it's no reason that everybody should know that. I mean, what Steve Coakley put out a piece on him about implicating him in the murder of Martin Luther King. He was part of that.
Oh yeah.
Everybody should know. How come we don't know that?
Uh, people excuse. Our folks make up excuses for people that they have admiration for. That, that's part of some sickness that we have going on. That's because when you see somebody's no good, but you still embrace them and give them respect that they don't deserve, that's a sickness of some sort.
So this is how far the sickness goes. So not just Jesse Jackson, but it was this other cat, Farrakhan. And
Mm-hmm.
so he was part of the murder of Malcolm X. So people be like, man, why are you hating on Farrakhan? And this is what pisses me off. Could you imagine? Okay, so Malcolm X was 39 when he was murdered. Could you imagine where he was going to, where he was evolving to? Can you imagine what that would have done to the minds of the young brothers in all these communities around here?
Mm-hmm.
That was wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was wiped out by this group called the Nation of Islam, and people still follow and love them. This is where we are. You got people that do damage. And if you go to the African Americans Ain't African page on Facebook right now, you can send you can look at one of the pictures that Charlene Brown sent me a long time ago. And this is why I say we can no longer always make ourselves the victim because we play into this shit. There's a picture of these brothers with top hats on and tuxedos on selling their mamas and sisters to the white boy.
Mm-hmm.
See, we can't keep saying they did us to they did this to us, and we make ourselves look dumb. Here we are, we help kill ourselves out, then we act like we're the victims, like our hands are clean. It ain't going down like that, y'all. It ain't going down like that. That's like us saying, oh, my kids ain't learning nothing in school. You didn't learn nothing in school. Why would you send your kid to a place that didn't do anything for you? And then they get mad at me. This when we say the world is upside down. So one of the things I can say about Africa is how we say they don't have an Aretha Franklin, how they say they don't have a James Brown or a Michael Jackson or a Mike Tyson or a Bob Marley or whatnot. One thing they have is this guy named Fela Kuti, and he has a song called Upside Down. I would suggest that we all listen to that song called Upside Down by Fela Kuti, and he breaks it down because the part that was happening in Africa, remember, it happened over there to them first because Africa shares the same land mass as their European brothers. Europe, Asia, and Africa is one land mass.
Mm.
We keep thinking that they're separate continents. They're not. It's all one landmass, and that whole landmass is coming over here to get what we got. I mean, we're giving it to them and try to act like we're the victims in it. We will be wiped out. So if you ever want to know what happened to those ancient Egyptians, so if you look at old pictures of Egypt, you'll notice that it was a fertile, what they call it, the fertile crescent.
Mhm.
It was lush. They had plants that were taller than people. Now it's a desert because those people were obliterated from that land. This is simple. If we keep going the same way we going, I really don't think we have enough time because now they're turning the men into women and the women into men. They're trying to get rid of us. The hatred that the males and females have for each other is unprecedented. The we have national parks and national forests over here that are untouched. We don't go into them because we like to go to the movies and stupid shit like that. We have national parks, forests, rivers, streams all over this place. We don't even go. We don't even check them out. These people are trying to steal your homeland. These people are trying to steal what was passed down to you. And as long as we keep being stupid, and boy, ain't nobody play stupid like we do. As long as we keep playing like our mamas came from Ethiopia somewhere, as long as we keep telling our children that our mamas are Lucy, as long as we keep it, this same thing is going to happen to us. And many of you see that happening already.
Yes. Now, let me do this, y'all. Lucy. Let's talk about Lucy. Let's talk about this out of Africa. And I could tell where some of our people mindset, where they are emotionally, and whatnot when they claim that out of Africa theory. That is a theory. There's no peoples, African or Americas, who taught us that out of Africa theory. It's a theory, meaning it was created by somebody else. Um, if the theory is, if you believe your ancestors came to America via out of Africa, that means you descend from a goddamn hairy ass ape. You share ancestry with that hairy ass ape. This ape that you did not even need, there's not even a link to you and this ape. So, um, you cannot get around the out of Africa theory unless you accept you come from that ape,
Mhm.
hairy ape. And and it's so funny, uh, and I'm gonna go ahead and say this, but it's so funny that the out of Africa those apes evolving into humans, we have artifacts here that's older than the time when the apes were evolving. So when Lucy was still evolving, well, her descendants were still evolving, um, we have artifacts older. So that means that the artifacts we have here, if you believe in the out of Africa theory, were done by goddamn chimps. Precise and artifacts and spears and spearheads that are still sharp today.
See, I see one of the problems is we don't question things. We never question anything. Whatever's told to us, we just go with it.
I mean, it's easy, Carrie. It's easy. I mean, if you really study the out of Africa theory, loose the were still in their evolving stages, were not humans during the time. We have artifacts, in fact, that are older than when they evolved into humans, meaning that they were still chimps. Half man, half chimps, rather. They were half man, half chimps when we had artifacts over here. So that excludes us from being some kin to this bullshit. It's a theory. It's bullshit. And you know what? And here's the thing. What's so funny is that one of my babies said, 11, 12 years old, said, well, if that's true, then that means we should see a whole bunch of monkeys uh, 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 evolving right now. He said we should see a whole bunch of monkeys evolving into people right now. And I say, God damn, here's a baby overstands the bullshit.
Right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely positive. You're absolutely 100% positively. This is where we are. This is what scholarly. So one of the things that these words are like spells to us. When we hear the word scholar, we just lose our mind. We think because somebody follows a scholar that these people that they call scholars are geniuses. And if you're a thinking person, and this is what I mean about us. So if you look at here's an example. If you notice when you go to the hardware store or anything, rat traps are no longer real big sellers. Why aren't rat they come up with all kind of glue traps and these kind of other little traps to catch rats? Why? Because the rats have evolved to a point where it's passed down through the DNA. Do not go near those rat traps. These are rats. So now they have to come up with other ways to try to catch the rats. We still doing the same shit we was doing 100 years ago. Then we get pissed off because our kids keep following the same thing that happened to our great 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 grandfathers are happening to our children. And the reason it is happening because we refuse. I mean, and we're arrogant about it too. We refuse to evolve. We refuse. I mean, no, I'm not doing it. We refuse to evolve, and our children pay for it. So, like I said earlier, we all coming up on that. What Prince say? You better live now before the Grim Reaper come knocking at your door. See, we all have to answer to that. And this is what you're leaving your children.
That's sad.
This is what we're leaving our children so you can drive a brand new car,
Yes.
so you can live in a house that's going to be given to somebody else after you get out of it.
Yes.
And how you're saying yes, Charlene, is exactly how we have an attitude about it. I can do what I want to do, nigga. You don't tell me what to do. That's my life. I can do what I want to do. That's exactly how we act.
Well, the only thing I could say, I could tell anybody is get your affairs in order, so that you have something to pass on to your children, your grandchildren, that will sustain them and keep their heads above water. And don't allow the ones who have not contributed or gotten themselves in line to do the same, be dead weight on them. I mean, that's where I'm at right now. No,
Uh,
nobody has the right to be dead weight on me, and they ain't gonna be dead weight on me.
here's another example. So these stories are coming out, and it's happening fast. Um, so everybody's been hearing about the people that's coming up through Mexico, all these immigrants coming up through Mexico. Those people aren't from South, those people aren't from Central America. These are foreigners, Arabs, and all other kind of people. Because this is one thing that this is why we have to know more than we know. So you ever notice that Arabs and Mexicans look the same?
Yes, and Native
Yeah,
Americans.
yeah,
The
but
Native Americans look the same? Do you ever notice that? This is where the so-called Afrocentric, the Hebrew Israelite, the Hoteps, this is where they come in and fuck us up by confusing the masses. All those people are Semites. Semites mean people who are half and half. So like where you have the Arabs now, all they did were the Europeans from the north coming down to Africa, mixing with those people down here. Same thing here with the how come you don't see the people who look like the Olmecs down in Mexico and Central America no more? Because the Spanish came down there and they ran through the women like a train.
oh, those people still there.
Yeah, they're
No, no,
still there.
no,
They're
no, no,
just
no. I,
televised.
you're absolutely right, and they're in the majority. I understand that, but up close to where we are in Central America, there the lighter skinned people move up north. It's kind of like up here in America now, up north in those states like South Dakota, North Dakota, Milwaukee, Minnesota, uh, Montana, Idaho, those places, the Europeans position themselves on top of you. This is how they do it. We don't never recognize anything. We don't, one thing, we don't care.
Hmm.
This is how they do it. It's the same thing in Mexico. You don't see many of the indigenous people in Mexico. They're down in Central America. They're down there in southern Mexico. So this is how they position themselves in the world. And we like to say we came over here in a boat. We came over here pissing and shitting on each other in a slave ship. That's the narrative that we teach our children. So I would suggest seriously that as a group of people, indigenous people, and you're talked about, I tell you a brother you might want to listen to. Now all his stuff isn't it's not 100%, but this brother gave out a lot of information. And one of the things that he taught us was just to read. Just pick up and read. uh just the four of us online, if we all read certain stuff and we came back and shared the information, we just made all four of us stronger. There was a cat in the 90s named Bobby Hemmett.
Hmm.
I know a lot of people have heard of him. Funny brother, funny, but he would read a whole bunch of occult books and a whole bunch of esoteric books where these people were telling you what they were doing to you. And and you could see how long he was doing it. He was beginning to evolve and see certain things. Check out some of the videos. They're on YouTube too. Check out some of the videos and see what the people from Europe were saying about you over here. It'll blow your mind.
Mhm.
We cannot be afraid to learn. We can't be pissed off at somebody because they tell you there was no such thing as Jesus Christ. It's a story. If you simply read the Bible, if you're thinking, you would say, God damn. And was I this stupid? Just read. You ain't even got to go to page 2. Just read it. And we won't even read it. Somebody comes and tell you that stuff, we won't even read it. Then we take on the characters in the Bible. We think we're the characters in the Bible. That's why we call ourselves Hebrews. How did Hebrews get over here? Explain that. How did people who couldn't, I mean, and look at a map. Every time you do some studying, pull out a map. And when you look at the place that they're talking about in the Bible, it's not bigger than it's not bigger than Harlem. And these people are lost for 40 years, wandering around. This is what I'm saying, y'all. We got to be more intelligent than what we are. We think because somebody writes something, that's how we get twisted up too. We think if somebody writes something down, that's the truth. No, boo. That's not how it works. We are speaking a foreign language. That's why many of you hate what I'm saying now, because you think you think English is your language. It's not. So I would suggest seriously, and this is how it's done. So we have a lot of brothers now, and I'm sure you heard them. Brothers say that they carry the seed. This is how dumb we've become. Brothers say they carry the seed, and I say I thought the seeds were passed down through the females, and the men fertilize the seeds. Do you know I get cussed out?
Mhm.
The seeds are passed down through the females. The females has, I mean, you can call them seeds, eggs, whatever. But the males fertilize the seeds, and the sperm doesn't have any blood in it. So you don't everybody's bloods come from their mother. This shit is simple.
Carrie, you're correct. Like I'll go back to what I said. Women, sisters, done had 12 hours of labor and talk about his seed, referring to the children. What?
Yeah.
He he didn't have to brave death. He didn't have, and the elders used to say that when a woman was giving birth to a child, she had one foot on the ground and one foot in the grave. One foot, yeah, one foot on the ground and one foot in the grave when she was giving birth to a child. I don't know, but Carrie, did you feel any contractions when your children were being born? Hello?
I'm sorry, Steph. What did you say?
You didn't feel any
I'm
labor
sorry. I'm
pains,
sorry,
did you?
Steph. What did you say?
You didn't feel any labor pains, did you?
Did I go through labor pain?
Yeah.
No, no, I didn't.
Okay. So I don't understand what is, it's shit is stupid.
Well,
Talk about it.
well, so that goes back to that Bible stuff. Because if you read the Bible, then this is why I say you ain't even got to get off page 1 to see how ignorant that shit is. It tells you not God. Because this is what I mean. Negroes, we can't read. It doesn't say God. It tells you some character named Lord God, and all you have to do is look up what a Lord is. It's that simple. Warlord, landlord, take your pick. It tells you that this Lord made this man out of the dirt called Adam. Now, many Negroes go off of this story. So my question is simply, how can two men make a woman? Fuck you, nigga. You just don't know. You wasn't there. I mean, this is what I get from people. And they say that because this is what they read in the Bible. So these two men get together and make another woman. Now, you can call it whatever you want, but I've never seen a man produce a female. Never. Do you know many of us brainwash our children to believe that dumb shit?
Oh yeah. Oh boy.
Many of us that we make sure we won't even read it. And what's the other people, these brothers who say they're, what's the people who, the dude who had sex with his daughters? What do they call them people? The guy who wife turned into some salt.
Yeah, that was
Oh,
Lot.
Moab. You talking about Moab in the Bible?
Moabites.
Okay, yeah, Lot. I think it was Lot had Lot's two daughters got him drunk, and they slept. They had sex with their father a couple times, more than once. I think I don't know how many, but it was more than once, and they conceived children from their father.
Mhm.
Now, I'm gonna be honest. I tried to get some when I was drunk once. It didn't work out the way I wanted it to, because it's hard to maintain an erection when you're drunk. So these are the questions that we should be asking when we read these dumb stories. So you have your daughters rape your father? We say that those are our people. The
Mhm.
African Americans say, the Hebrew Israelites say that Moabites are the creation from an incestuous affair. We say that those are our people. We teach our children that, hey, this is where you come from.
Carrie, one day a guy was posting and he called another brother Moab, and I said, "You ain't mad?" I said, "You should get mad at that shit." And he was asking me why, and I told him about the story, and he said I was lying. I said, "Look it up for yourself." He didn't even know it.
Mm.
Grown man didn't even know the story. I said, "I would be offended if I were you."
Right. I mean, you would be offended at who? Himself?
If somebody called me damn Moab, if I was a man, somebody called me Moab, I would be offended.
Yeah. And all you have to do, and this is what I'm saying. There was a program, and if you guys seen it, with Phoenix Moon a couple of weeks ago, and she was talking to one of those conscious groups up in New York, and one of the things, and this is what we got to get into. One of the things that the brother kept saying to her was, "Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. No, let me ask you a question." See, that's where we got to be now, because somebody is always trying to ask us questions, but they ain't never given no answers.
Mhm.
Never. Let me ask you a question, because one of the things that somebody who always asking questions, they don't know shit. They trying to learn something. So that's why they'll start talking about creatures from outer space. We come from another planet. Blah 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 blah.
We Anunnaki.
I mean, all kind of foreign ideologies that other people give us. We pick them up and try to and teach our children that. You think we suffering now?
We used to be green.
Yeah, we. Oh, yeah, oh man. Oh man. So this is what we teach our children. And so and I'm watching the youth now. We teach our children this stuff and they come up and they know nothing. They're pissed off. They're wondering how come where I'm going to college with these people and these people can buy ride around in BMW SUVs because you buy your hair from them and they buy nothing from you. You see how that see they keep their money in their pocket, you don't with an attitude. You're arrogant about giving your money to other people and not sharing. Do you know if we recycle our money with each other, we wouldn't have no poor people. We wouldn't have no homeless people. That homeless problem that you're seeing, that's on us. That's on us. And we always trying to act like somebody's doing something to us. Nobody else buys nothing from you. How do we look as a nation of people over here and everybody that's coming over here, we support them? How do you look and what do you think the repercussions is going to be from that?
Ooh.
Yeah, brother wrote Sonetta Jabari, Shaka Amos, Reggie Polite, Surin Sudan Seti, Young Pharaoh. What are these cats doing?
What about them?
No, this is what Tyrone Kincaid was asking. He was just because I call it the conscious community. So here you're taking on the name of Egyptians, but they were burned off the planet. And for those of you who've been over in Egypt, and if you know what happened when they went down into Africa on their first trip, how they burned out the land, why would those people be your heroes? Why would people who couldn't maintain themselves on their planet be your heroes? And we're arrogant about it.
It's a masculine story. That's why.
Say that again.
It's masculine.
What do you mean?
They always talking about the men and whatnot. It's a masculine story, just like the African slave trade story is a masculine story.
Yeah. So all these people. So I think it was Runoko Rashidi again was saying that Harriet Tubman was an African. So she was an African and she knew to navigate America like she did. Explain that.
I'll do you one even better. How about her mother? It was said that this is the story saying that her mother was uh uh the I think the slave master or uh white guy came to take her son away and Harriet Tubman's brother away from her Harriet Tubman's mother. And her mother, I think her name was Rit, Ritt. Rit said, if you come in my house, now he gonna slave with my house now. I mean, come on now. If you come in my house, I'm gonna crack y'all heads. I'm sorry, y'all. That don't sound like no slave to me.
No,
Right.
but she had a house. She had property.
Yes. And telling her master in front of company, she gonna bust their shit open. Damn. The stories. I don't believe for one bit that Harriet Tubman was a slave.
I don't either.
I think if you noticed a lot of the females around that time, they weren't slaves. So that's what I mean. There's a book that everybody can get called Confederate Currency. How are you on the money and you slaves? How did who does that?
Nobody. Nobody put no slave images on their money.
And so this is what happens when you allow other people to teach your children. They can teach your children that your children were monkeys, and they do. And you will go with it. You will verify it. And if your kids rebel against what they're being taught in school, guess what you would do? Guess what you would do? Right. You will whoop your kids' ass because they not listening. And that's what's going on with these schools now. I've been into these schools. I don't blame the young men. You must think they stupid. And that what it really boils down to is because these African American parents, they expect their children to be as dumb as they are. They're teaching your kids to be, they teaching your young men it's okay to be a woman. You don't say nothing. So just imagine. Just imagine. People are like, well, what did they do shit? What did we do? Why don't you start teaching your children yourselves? With all the technology that you have at your fingertips, you can't teach your children yourselves. You can't come up with an ass kicking homeschooling system because let's face it, I've been to school and the school was a joke when I was in there. My mother was always up into the school trying to embarrass me, but I would have to embarrass her because I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. They teaching us bullshit. Again, the Fela Kuti again. Because a lot of people say, because we say African Americans ain't African, a lot of people get pissed off at us, say, oh, you just hate Africans. No, I don't know any Africans like that. I'm I'm too busy trying to make sure that my people are aware of what's going on in front of them. I don't have nothing against African. They have Fela Kuti bad. One of his most favorite songs is teachers don't teach don't teachers stop teaching me dumb shit. Teachers stop teaching the kids dumb shit. This is in Nigeria 40 years ago. So they try to say that we hate Africans. To try to make us feel guilty about it. Many of you do. I don't. We're going through some things now that if we don't snap out of it, and I don't mean to be. I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm not trying to make nobody feel a certain kind of way. But you yourselves, those of you that are listening, what do you think we face if we keep going down this same path that we've been going down? Sooner or later, the civil rights all stars, the civil rights group, they're sat down. They've gotten what they've gotten out of it. See, that's another story about them civil rights people. Now it's passed down to their generation, which is many of us. What we gonna do about it? I would simply say one of the things is that school shit, you want to make the unemployment more on an equal footing, pull all your children out of school and start teaching them something that's going to keep us alive as a people. That's my 2 cents.
You want to see their cellular memory. You want to see their ancestral connection come online and reboot. Teach them yourself. Teach them about nature.
Uh, uh, Wait a minute. Somebody just said something that I want to share with the group. Uh, the Mongoloids and whites will steal our identity when we're gone. That this is from Tyrone Kincaid. No, sir, they're already stealing your identity. That's how that. Check this out. This is what I mean. How we look dumb. These people come over to your land, call themselves you, open up casinos, have your dumb ass go in there and spend all kind of loot. Arrogant about it. I'm going to casino. Dude, let's go to casino. These people over here taking your identity, opening up casinos and milking money out of you. And we cool with it. We ha 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 he. We cool with it. This is where we are. These people are who, when you get down south, and these people that call themselves Native American, and like I said earlier, Native Americans, indigenous people are the majority people anywhere you go. If you go to the Philippines, there's not a lot of white people over there compared to the Philippines. If you go to Africa, it's not a lot of white people over there compared to the Africans. When you go to India, it's not a lot of white people over there compared to the Indians. What makes you think it's the same over here? You are the majority of people over here, but somebody told you you were the minority, and guess what you do? Well, yes, boss, I whatever you say, boss, I be whatever you want me to say, boss. I'm not. You're the majority over here. How do you think all these other nationalities of people come over here and become rich off of you? Well, what that would boss say. I mean, you talk to an African American, you'd be embarrassed. And these aren't the poor people. I'm not talking about the poor people who've been cast aside. I'm talking about the so-called scholars. The scholars are idiots. When I hear the word scholar, a Negro scholar, they're idiots as far as I'm concerned. You think John Henry Clark was great? Here, his mama's an Indian down here in Alabama, and he's teaching you not that, but you come from over the water somewhere. Then the fool, because as you get older, the reality, you remember, we're evolving. No matter what you did when you were young, when you get older, the truth is going to start out. And if you ever watch a video of John Henry Clark, a video that Wesley Snipes put out called "A Long and Mighty Walk," John Henry Clark tells on himself. He tells you when he was going to school, and Kwame Nkrumah was going to school too, and Kwame Nkrumah became the president of Ghana. Since he knew Kwame Nkrumah, he went over to Ghana to see if he can get a job working for Nkrumah's paper. He saw Kwame Nkrumah driving down the street. Kwame Nkrumah asked him, "What are you doing in my country?" If we were Africans, Kwame Nkrumah wouldn't have said that. And Kwame Nkrumah would have said, "Brother, welcome home." But he said, "What are you doing in my country?" These are John Henry Clark's words. Pull up the video, "A Long and Mighty Walk." Wesley Snipes produced it about 20 years ago. He told you, "What are you doing in my country?" But you will teach your children that this ain't their country. I ain't left nothing in America. I built it. Nigga, you built it. It's yours. And we just try our damnedest. We tried our hardest to be the stupidest people that we can. And we do. You teach your children, all you doing is obliterating, making sure that your children have nothing.
There's a consequence behind it too, Carrie. There are consequences.
What are the consequences?
Your children keep getting police brutality. Number one, they're being taken advantage of. Number two, they're no longer keeping themselves uh, um, alive and healthy, but they're making sure of somebody else being alive and healthy, and building somebody else's dream and wealth
Don't forget
at the
poverty.
expense of themselves.
Don't forget the poverty. See, there's this notion. Saw. I think it was posted on Facebook some months ago, where they was saying that poverty wasn't as bad for so-called African Americans as once believed. Mm-mm. You have to be at the bottom so everybody can have their American dream. That's how it is. That's not just here. That's any other country, Australia, Fiji, whatever. You go there, and those people, the indigenous people at the bottom, they're not able to utilize their land and resources uh, for themselves. Other people there using it and building their wealth. See? So that means that the indigenous gonna have to be poor. The masses of them. Now, folks love to bring up Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson and Oprah Winfrey and say, "Look at them." Well, these people don't represent the norm. They're not the norm. The masses of Negroes are at the bottom and working themselves half to death to just live, pay bills, feed themselves, clothe themselves.
I
So,
want to ask you guys a question because this is this I'm having a let me lay it out for you first. Let's take this cat Michael Jackson. Do you really think that was the one that died was the same one was Michael Jackson when he was the Jackson 5? Do you think that was the same person? And here's why I asked that question. That guy, it's like they were given a synopsis of what's about to happen. They faded this guy out of reality, and he had some white children. Now, when we're all gone, they'll say that Michael Jackson was white. You best believe that. And they'll use the children to say, well, here go his kids. And all the images you see of Michael Jackson when he was a kid, because see, you don't see images of Elvis Presley. You don't see him when he was a kid. You don't see images of these people when they're children. So Michael Jackson, because they're already selling his music now. Guess who's getting that money? Because remember who made the Jackson 5 rich are the little kids when I was a kid made Michael Jackson rich. Now guess who's reaping the benefit from that? Them little white kids. And this is what I'm saying. This is what we're doing to our children. So Michael Jackson was kind of like he was like the, what do you call a person that's put up in front of everybody so their actions so they can influence other people. Michael Jackson influenced the whole country of people to do what he did. And that's what's happening. All our resources, we give it to other people. So I'm saying, because I just don't believe that somebody would do that to themselves. Look at him before he passed away. And look at him when he was a kid. And tell me, was that the same person?
mm, no.
So when they talk about cloning and stuff and blah blah blah, I don't know. But in that case, who was that cat? Because it's hard to believe he was the same dude that you saw with the Jackson 5. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I haven't seen I mean, looks like he had a lot of surgeries. I know that I had read where it was said that his father used to pick at his nose and used to humiliate him about his nose when he was young. So, um, I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but
Eh, eh. See that. So, but I say that to say, this is how we're how we're trained. This is how our minds are washed. This is how we become what we are. Because other people can tell us, hey, this is who you are. This is what I want you to be. And you know how we want to be. We want to live that lifestyle. We want to be a star. We want that. And that's damn near every entertainer that's ever came out. They have lived crushing lives. They have had the worst lives ever. And so they become these stars that other people tell them they have to be. But just on that Michael Jackson, because he was such a worldwide phenomenon, I wonder, it was that guy, was Michael, because my mother even said, and my mother is about as unconscious as you can get. My mother said when that Bad album came out, she said, that's not Michael Jackson. She said, that's not him.
Wow.
So this is what I mean about, since many of us look at him as a god, and you know that's the truth. Many of us look at him as something special. And I don't think it's like that at all. And so this is how we are programmed to be the way that we are now. Just my observation. So what I'm seeing with the like we talked about earlier, the Georgia Guidestones, and the Georgia Guidestones are written in languages, but they're not written in any of the languages here. So what does that tell you? They don't plan on us being here. So being that we don't speak our language, is that a problem?
No,
Being that we don't know who we are, is that a problem?
look, you can know who you are. We don't speak that language, but guess what, Carrie? We're creators. We create language. Did you know that? But every time slang is used in amongst our people, it become mainstream. You have corporate America using slang. So we create language. We create it.
No,
Now,
no, no. I realize that we're speaking American English. I understand that, and you're absolutely right. But what I'm saying, okay, so let's say if you and I wanted to, so let's say if you go into a Chinese store and you order something and the Chinese people start talking behind the counter, you don't know what the hell they talking about.
mm-mm,
Do we have that same advantage in our own home? The answer is no. Well, I mean, we can have it, but they can still kind of figure out what we're saying because they're right next to us, and we don't mind giving our resources away, especially if we're gonna get pat on the head. So I'm just saying that these are things that we got to pay attention to. That's all I'm saying. We got to pay attention to what's happening to us. And it's like the sister was saying earlier, we on this whole landmass of America, and America stretches from Alaska, Canada, North America, Mexico, Central America, the Caribbean, and South America. We look at it as certain different parts. We look at ourselves as different people. And that is put on us by all these immigrants where we can't even recognize each other. Because if you honestly think that the people in Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina wasn't traveling down to the Caribbean, to those outlying islands on the East Coast, you got another thought coming.
I agree.
Those people, some of the same people. And if you look at the Gulf of Mexico, and like I'm saying, whenever you're studying this stuff, whenever you're looking at, so like whenever you studying this, whenever you studying the slave trade, look at a map of how these people got here. And you will, and if you're thinking, and I hope most of you are thinking, you will simply go, God damn, all they did was come across Iceland and Greenland and skip right down into Canada. Or did they come across the Atlantic Ocean during hurricane season? Once you start thinking, and see, that's what I think has been lost, our ability to think. Because the African American male doesn't think at all. He only does what he's told, right or wrong.
Mhm.
That's all we do. We don't think about nothing. You just had a hurricane come across the Atlantic, where it tore up Puerto Rico. And so I asked brothers, do you honestly think a slave ship full of people can outrun a hurricane? And they stop and think about it. Then I won't hear from them no more. Then I'll hear from them 2 or 3 years later. And they'd be like, brother, you know what? You was absolutely right about that. You think people can come across the Atlantic Ocean pissing and shitting on each other and living in that shit? We don't even think about that.
And,
We
and
don't
Terry, and prime health condition
I'm sorry, say that again.
and jump off the ships in prime healthy conditions,
Could jump off the ships in prime, healthy, ready to be sold, shiny,
ready to work.
ready to work.
According to the circulation that was done, that's what it said. It said in prime
Yes.
health.
Yeah. So, and also, feces, urine, when urine gets on wood, urine is an acid,
Mhm.
feces is a gas. How did those people live in a slave ship under the ship for how long do you think it would take for a slave ship being the only power it has is wind driven across the Atlantic, across those waves? And see, they can tell a Negro anything. It's a it's a it's a trade winds bring you right over here. Well, really, how come they don't do it today? Well, they had some guy, he built a boat, a raft like they did in Egypt, and he came across the Caribbean. Well, how come they don't do that today? They have all kind of shows that would make millions if they showed how people came across the Atlantic. This is how we're taught. This is the stuff we believe. They can tell us anything. Anything. And then you have the brothers that when you bring this up, because they can't say nothing, they get mad. Fuck you, nigga, you wasn't there. You don't know what happened. Damn, but aren't I allowed to think? Can I use common sense? And anybody that's been on a cruise ship or been in the Caribbean, you know how choppy those waters are. Imagine being on the equator and you coming across there during hurricane season and you make it. These are the stories they tell us, and this is what we teach our children, and this is why we suffer. This
Uh,
shit's not rocket science, y'all.
well, I
So
want to read something to chime in what you said about our people were coming back and forth before the foreigners even got here. It says the coastal Arawak peoples called a powerful ethnic group located just south of present-day Macon, Georgia, the Mayako. That means Maya people. The Altamaha River basin was the melting pot where peoples of North America, Central America, the Caribbean basin, South America, and most of the South Carolina and perhaps even the Southern Highlands. It's where they gathered.
so what does that mean?
That means that people from North America, Central America, the Caribbean Basin, South America, and most of South Carolina.
And who are those people today? Who are those people?
People from the continent of America.
I was just in North Carolina a couple of weeks ago. You know what those people look like up there in North Carolina? I was on the coastal part of North Carolina, on the eastern part of North Carolina. Do you know what those people, you know what the so-called African American people look like? They look just like the earth.
Yep.
If they laid on the ground, they would disappear. That's how much they blended into their environment. That's the reality. So I just think I think it's just kind of weird that we're always trying to, give our home base away. We're not trying to steer our children in the right direction. We're not trying to give them anything to live off of. We just teach them that they're stupid. And that's basically what we teach our children. Right? Right. So I think some of the things that we're going to have to pay attention to, especially as we go forward, because one of the things that we have to look at reality. So you have this cat. Who's the president now? Trump. Now, please don't get me wrong. I realize that Trump is a sock puppet. He's probably hanging up in a closet somewhere. And when they need him to be stupid, he comes out and he frustrates the people. These are the people who are putting in reality for your children coming up. And you can look at yourself, oh, I'm black. You can degrade yourself like that if you want to. You can look at yourself as nothing, but you're something, because if you weren't nothing, you wouldn't be here. So we all count. We're all a part of this big old world. You think that all the fish in the sea, one fish in the sea don't count? He does count, because our job is to keep Earth in a balance, in a cosmic balance. That's our job. That's all of our job. But we give away what we're supposed to do because we want to drive a Mercedes Benz. We give away what we do because we want to eat fish from China. We give away what we do because we want to wear the 2019 version of Nikes. I'm telling you, you have too many immigrants over here. Why are people fleeing their homes? And they running. So all that African shit, these people coming over here, all you got to do is ask, well, why are you fleeing your home? Remember the young lady who was the African girl, I think she was from the Congo. A few months ago, she tried to climb up the Statue of Liberty. Remember that?
Yes.
How come she didn't do that at home?
Really?
How come she didn't in the Congo? You know why? Because they would have cracked her skull. She can come over here pretending like she's indigenous sister from over here, and the indigenous sisters will lift her up over their head and send their own daughters to be taught to be retarded in these schools. That's how we do it. We won't survive long like that. We can play around if we want to. We can play stupid if we want to, because nobody plays stupider than the African American. We won't survive. And everyone who can hear my voice, know I ain't bullshitting. So it's after midnight here. So I want to say to everybody, let the ladies close if you have something that you want to say to close out. But I'm gonna go ahead and close it out now. Charlene, is there any last words you want to say?
No, there's nothing I want to say. It's just been a pleasure talking with you.
It's been a pleasure talking with you too. Thank you for joining me. I always like how I really, really, and Charlene Brown, she be sending me stuff, y'all, that I be like, where'd you find this shit? She be sending stuff. It's like the picture I got posted in African Americans Ain't Africans on Facebook now. These brothers in these top hats and these tuxedos selling their mothers and daughters to these white boys in the state governments. I got that from Charlene Brown. So when you realize all this hatred and stuff that we have with each other, you have to. A lot brothers did a whole bunch of dumb shit back then. So it's like the brother that got shot in the face here in Alabama. He was in the army. He was an officer in the army. He was one of those people that said, you know, when you see the people in the army, thank you for your service. That's how much they thanked him. They shot him in the face and left him to die. But you will be mad at me for telling you that. You know why you're mad at me for telling you that? Because you won't go confront the people who shot him in the face. That's the African American. So we better get out of these bitch ass ideologies that we're in and these beliefs that we in, because you're a part of this. You're a part of nature. You were created by nature. Read some of the stories that the indigenous people, that your people wrote. Read the creation story of the indigenous people here. Read the stories out of Mississippi and Alabama and Louisiana. Read those stories. Go to those mounds. See how those people did things. Those were your people. But all we want to do is go to the movies. We won't survive like that, y'all. We won't survive. Shai Ray, is there something you want to end with? And I want to say thank you for joining me also.
I'm glad to have been a part of it, of the round table. I just want family to understand that there is no power without the collective. Tribalism, it won't work. If we're gonna lift ourselves as a people, we have got to let go of those particular aspects uh, of having a tribe and being a part of this tribe and thinking only of that tribe, because not all of our people are able to reconnect to tribes. And even if they could, our strength comes as a collective. And we have got to see ourselves as one big collective, not a bunch of tribes and everybody looking out for themselves, because you know what? No other people do that. No other people do that. Everybody would, I don't care what kind of differences that they have amongst themselves on their own land. When they come here, they are collective because they know it's power in them banding together. And that's what we're going to have to do if we're to lift our people up out of the funk that we're in. So thank you, Carrie, and thank you, Charlene, and Nisi and Joy. I appreciate it. And Tomahawk, I appreciate being a part of this discussion.
And thank you for lending us your knowledge and your expertise on who we are, because you know that this type of stuff is needed. I mean, I know we can talk about sports, we can talk about a whole bunch of dumb shit, but the reality, y'all, the people that I deal with, these are people who see what's happening to us. They're concerned about what's happening to us. We live in all different parts of the country, but one of the things that we notice is the same thing that's happening in California is happening in Tennessee. Same thing that's happening in Tennessee is happening in Washington State. The same thing that's happening in Washington State is happening in Arizona, and so on and so forth. So seriously, as a group of people, you have children coming up, you see what's going on, you see that everybody's flowing over here, especially if you over there in Canada, I mean in California and Arizona, you seeing that the immigrants are walking. They say it ain't even no security border on there. All that shit Trump is talking is just hogwash. These people walking in like they walking into their own back door. And while we're playing, go, I'm sorry,
Dropping babies.
dropping babies. Russian women come over here and drop babies. Chinese women come over here just to have babies. And you know what they call them babies? Native Americans. Native means born here. Native don't mean you're indigenous to a place. How do you know this? And this is what I'm saying. Come on, y'all, we got to start thinking. Being that this is the Christmas season, they have something that you're going to see a million times, something called the nativity scene. I know it's just a story. I don't believe it, but this is how we're programmed. They program you with something called the nativity scene. Jesus wasn't indigenous to Bethlehem. He was native, born in Bethlehem, right?
Mhm.
That's as simple as the shit gets. He was from somewhere else. But as his family was traveling, he was native to Bethlehem. That's why they call it the nativity scene. We always get shit confused. A Native American is a foreigner. They got you thinking that you a Native American. Call yourself what your people call themselves. And normally what they call themselves is where they lived. Not all these other names. Minnesota. Those are the people who lived up there. That's what they were called. The lakes and the rivers that they were on. That's what they called themselves. The Gullah Geechee. I shut down a group of Africans from that. They talking about, oh, the Gullah Geechee came over from Africa. I'm like, no, they didn't. They named themselves after the Ogeechee River. The African American, oh, I didn't know that. You never know nothing. It's imperative that you know nothing. And we're cool with it. So, got to look at each other because we all we got. We all we got. And if you're addicted to this food, get unaddicted to it. I don't know how because they're not serving you food no more. And everybody knows it. What they're bottling up is water. You have access to some of the best water. They're not even giving the people in Flint, Michigan fresh water. But you want to go to the movies. Better pay attention to all these people coming over here buying your land because pretty soon you're not going to have a place to go. And we're going to be so weakened by it because you see how we dropping. You see how the life expectancy is going. You see it. Soon, we're not going to have no excuse. I want to thank all you guys for joining us tonight. You guys have a good weekend, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.